Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing Reanimator, but it's not the blue-black Reanimator deck that everyone's sick of. No, it's a classic mono-black Reanimator. So there was a legacy challenge at the weekend, and the final was between two decks that were almost identical playing this mono-black Reanimator list. And they were, of course, piloted by two of the most famous Reanimator pilots in Legacy, Roodslay and Magic Dads. So Roodslay managed to come out on top, so we're playing Roodslay's list today. Let's get into it. So, the aim of the game is to put a big monster into the graveyard and kill our opponent with it. Now, the monsters we're putting in, most of the time is going to be Griselbrand because we are trying to shallow grave it. Shallow grave means it attacks the turn it comes into play, so we draw 14, attack, draw another 7, and then we can try and put Borborygmos Enraged into play, throw all our lands at our opponent and actually kill them on turn 1. So we're not just trying to make a big monster on turn 1, we're sometimes actually killing our opponent on the very first turn. The ways that we are trying to get our creatures in the graveyard are pretty numerous. We have Entomb, we have Cabal Therapy that can target ourselves, Thoughtseize that can target ourselves, and Unmask that can target ourselves. So it's disruption that is also enablers, which is quite nice, and then when we draw a bunch of cards, it becomes disruption to their face, and they're never going to have enough stuff to deal with our creature in theory. Other reanimation things we have going on, we have Actual Factual Reanimate, as well as Animate Dead. There is no Goryo's Vengeance, which is something you sometimes see in these lists. We've got Fast Mana in Dark Ritual and Lotus Petal to power this all out. And we do still have Atraxa and Archon of Cruelty as just good monsters that we can do stuff with. Our mana base has got 2 Surveil lands, one of them being blue, one of them being green. The reason for this is our sideboard, which also explains the Bayou and the one Underground Sea. So our sideboard has a pivot plan in Witherbloom Apprentice. This is another A plus B sort of combo where we play this out and then we Chain of Smog ourselves and then we can copy it as many times as we like, and every time we copy it our opponent loses 1 life. This can get through things like the One Ring as well because it's life loss, not damage, and it doesn't target. Because this doesn't use the graveyard, if we know they're going to be boarding in a bunch of scary graveyard hate, then we can just do that. We also have Show and Tell, which we can use to put in a monster. So we can pivot completely away from the graveyard if we need to. We have 3 Spoils of the Vault, which are just tutors that can hopefully find one of our pieces without killing us. This can do lethal damage to us depending on where our cards are in our library, but we came here to go for it and not be a coward, so Spoils of the Vault makes some sense. Alright, that's the list. Congratulations once again to Roodslay. Let's see if we can reanimate some enormous friends. If you are looking to buy some Magic cards, not only does 3-for-1 Trading have a wonderful online store linked in the description of this video, but they will also have booths at upcoming events. MagicCon Atlanta from the 26th to 28th of September, Eternal Weekend Pittsburgh from the 9th to the 12th of October, and Spiel 25 in Essen from the 23rd to the 26th of October. Whether you're looking to sell off cards you don't need or add more to your collection, 3-for-1 Trading has got you covered. Alright, our first opening hand doesn't really do anything, so we have to mulligan it. Okay, so this requires a bit more mana to work, but we can put our Griselbrand into the graveyard and shallow grave it if we find a land, so we can get a Surveil land if we need to, and take it a bit slower, and then we can use the Unmask on ourselves, our opponent. I think this one is fine, and we're probably going to put back a Cabal Therapy. Our opponent's mulliganed a lot here, so this means they're probably doing something in the combo ballpark, or they're incredibly unlucky. They're just passing. This makes me feel like I need to be unmasking my opponent this turn. Okay, we can just make a Griselbrand right now. Unmask, targeting ourselves. We can pitch this, Animate Dead. We get rid of our Griselbrand, reanimate the Griselbrand, draw 7, and then we'll be able to unmask our opponent. No, sorry, probably unmask or do something like that. There we go, there's an unmask. Unmask them, we'll pitch this Griselbrand. Let's see what you're working with. They might scoop rather than showing us what they're doing. That's exactly what happened. Okay. Our opponent's, I think it's correct for us to pivot into this sort of plan. I've got a feeling our opponent might be on neutral spells. So we could just board in the full whack of cards here. And that would mean we get rid of all the reanimation spells and the entombs. What does that look like? Pretty close. Borborygmos not so good either, actually. So we don't want entombs. Probably don't want these things, and then we'll keep 2 reanimates in if we keep this one, so we can still discard ourselves and get it going that way until we get a better feel of what sort of graveyard hit our opponent has. If they're like a really fast combo deck like Oops All Spells, they quite like to have things like Leyline, which we just can't beat, so we need to have a backup plan like this. I think this one is like, we have hand disruption, which is really important. I think we will keep this one. I think we're going to die on turn 1. Alright, opponent's mulligan to 5. We might not even ever get to see what they're playing. Leyline of the Void. Alright, so our opponent's mulligan quite aggressively to find the leyline. Garden of Freyalise. So this is Oops All Spells. So we get to Unmask and Cabal Therapy and take a big chunk of our opponent's hand. So I think it's Unmask, Pitch, Dark Ritual, and then we can Cabal Therapy. And that way we keep ourselves live for various combos. Let's see, Informer. They can reanimate it if we hit it, which is kind of annoying. I'll take the Undercity Informer, and then I will also take the Felder Profane and keep them clear of black mana. Oh, would you look at that? We perfectly hit there. So our opponent's got 1 card in hand. Maybe we're supposed to play out this Petal so they can't discard it. But they don't have black mana right now. But they haven't played a spell, so they could find black mana. Alright, Once Upon a Time is getting popped off. What are you going to find? So if we draw a monster, we can put it in next turn. An Elvish Spirit Guide. We found a monster. Let's put in a Griselbrand. I'll draw some cards. Sure, we'll have another 7. Why not? So we know our opponent's got 1 card in hand. We don't know what it is. I would like to unmask and have a look. It's a Reanimate. Okay. It's good to know. So, how much fast mana do we have? We have a Petal. I'll play that one out. Alright, our opponent's just scooping. Alright, well, we got to do our thing, and it looked pretty strong there. Let's go to round number 2. We're on the play, which is where we want to be, but this hand is not where we want to be. So we're going to send this one back. We don't have a way of discarding anything. We could just try and draw it, but we're on the play, so we should just mulligan to something a bit more explosive here. This doesn't do it. Our opponent's mulligan to 5 as well here. Alright, let's just keep going, I suppose. Okay, yeah, this is a turn 1, whatever we want it to be. Beautiful. I'll keep this one. So how many cards are we keeping on here? 4. So these 4 is a turn 1 Griselbrand, and then we can just draw 14. No, we can draw 7 cards. We can't draw 14. Are we better off getting an Atraxa then? I don't think so. I think we're still looking for Griselbrand. It's just much more powerful with what we want to do with it, which is just get a big boatload of cards in hand and then kill our opponent with them immediately. So keep this, get rid of this, and this. Play this out, play this out. We're going to go and get ourselves a basic swamp here. We don't need to show our opponent any of our splashes and help them out. Let's Entomb. I think it is a Griselbrand here. Now there's an argument that we get the Atraxa, because we're going to go to 4 life here. I don't think our opponent's going to be able to deal us damage. Okay, so we get to unmask our opponent here. I'll pitch this Reanimate. Infernal Tutor, that can get gone. Sure, that looks pretty solid to me. There's a Vault of Whispers. And they're playing out a Petal. They'll probably play out all of these things because we have discard. They don't just want to get like a Cabal Therapy wrecking us. Now if they have drawn another Infernal Tutor, then we do lose here. Cabal Therapy targeting us. You got it. What do you name here? They named Entomb. They did hit an Entomb. I just think we attack. We don't want to give our opponent a really easy out here. So if they draw an Infernal Tutor, we do lose here. And we don't really have much that we can do about that. I think we just pass, and then next turn we can draw 7. Just make it slightly more difficult for them to hit Lethal Storm. So if they're doing like an Ad Nauseam line. Alright, we should be able to win the game, I think, now. Alright, let's play this land, and I would like to take a land out of our deck. Just going to get a swamp here. Let's draw 7 cards. Okay, let's start with a Dark Ritual. I will Cabal Therapy target myself. I'm going to name Archon of Cruelty. Then we reanimate this. Sorry, then we Shallow Grave the Archon of Cruelty. Our opponent loses 3 life. We attack for a whole bunch because the Archon gets a trigger and also gets to attack. So I'm going to go to -6, I think. Okay. We got him. So I don't remember if Storm is running ley lines or not. I don't think they are, but I'll check. I think they run like surgicals maybe. Are we supposed to pivot off? I'm not sure we are. No, I think we just stay the course here. But we took a wild sideboard in while we're thinking about it, so our opponent might be thinking we are duking. But generally we just want to hit our opponent with discard and then do our thing. And the clock that we're going for is the quicker clock, and I think that is important. Also means that we're not putting blue cards in to dilute our black card count for things like Unmask. So this does give us an Unmask, but doesn't give us much else to go on with. Mulligan. No, we need a land. Yeah, this is the turn 1 Griselbrand, isn't it? Right? So we keep 5 cards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we need to draw a black card for our turn. And then we can get Griselbrand attacking on turn 1. I think there are more black cards in our deck than anything else, so we should be odds on here. Now we can still miss and feel sad. And we can also get Thoughtseized. Or we could just get killed on turn 1 and it didn't really matter what we did. Alright, it's going to be the Shallow Grave that goes here, I suspect. We are a long ways off winning this game now. There goes our reanimation effect. A Witch Claw Talisman. Don't see those very often. Thoughtseize. Alright, I guess we do some horrible plays. Let's Thoughtseize our opponent. 2 more Thoughtseizes. Well, I guess we play this one out. If they Thoughtseize us, they take the Unmask, which I guess is fine. I don't really want to take a Thoughtseize off of my opponent here. Okay, so we're both kind of doing nothing here. If I'd have Unmasked instead of Thoughtseizing, then any Thoughtseizes they fire in would take our Griselbrand, but they obviously Thoughtseized us, so they know that would be the case, and they just wouldn't Thoughtseize us. There is a City of Traitors. Are we going now? Grafdigger's Cage. Yeah, that's pretty good. How do we beat Grafdigger's Cage? With a lot of Dark Rituals, I guess? Thoughtseizing me. They're going to take my Unmask. Okay. Don't know, maybe we are supposed to pivot here. Uncertain. Right, we found a land though, so we get to Surveil. Or maybe we just do the half pivot just into Show and Tells. Let's go and get the Underground Mortuary here. And Entomb. That doesn't really help us out in this situation, does it? Just looking for all the Dark Rituals you've ever seen. Okay, we have an Entomb. We can use that to get a bad draw out of our deck. I think our opponent wins this game. It's going to take a few turns. Or maybe not. Maybe they can just fire these both off next turn and that'll be enough. Another Entomb in the graveyard. It's that stage of the game here. Animate Dead. That's not the one. I would like to see if our opponent is an ad nauseum deck or not. Get a little bit more information. Because depending on what they show us, definitely will change the speed. So Infernal Tutor and Wishclaw Talisman are slower cards. So they're not necessarily going to be going blisteringly fast turn 1 kills. What we put under there? A Duress? Yeah. So they should be able to crack both of these. And then we can like start doing some Beseech and Lion's Eye Diamond stuff. So they can activate one of these, get a Lion's Eye Diamond. Then they can activate the other ones, crack the Lion's Eye Diamond in response. And then they have enough mana to do a Beseech chain. And then they can like blow up this into this into this. So that'll be Storm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then they can Gaia's Blessing if they have that in their list, which then gets them back the Mox, which they won't have anything in their hand for, but it's still another Storm count. The Lion's Eye Diamond, which gives them enough mana. So I think they had it there, but I obviously don't know their list. So they might not be having the Gaia's Blessing, so they might need one more Storm there. Shallow Grave is not it. If our opponent wants to show us enough of their deck that we can get a little bit more of an idea of the things we need to be watching out for, that'd be nice. Alright, we're just gonna... Our opponent can just keep drawing cards because our out here is incredibly slim. We need lands and Dark Rituals. I guess Lotus Petals help too, but we've already gone through 2 of them. Cabal Therapy. Go ahead. Nothing matters. So they should name Dark Ritual here. They named Veil of Summer. Okay, so they're worried about the green. That makes sense. So now they should just be able to combo off. So we can S6 this and let our opponent show us what they're up to. So this is Storm Count 2. They can crack this and they can crack both their LEDs using their City of Traitors mana, I would imagine. That's both their Wishclaw Talismans. So they can go and get Peer into the Abyss if they have that. Like even with these, we still wouldn't be able to win the game if they pass a turn. Okay, they're just doing a Beseech chain. Do they have the guy as well? So they were just waiting for us to have no option of interacting via a Veil of Summer. Yep, so then this one, they should float mana off this Chrome Mox as well. We're just going straight into Guy's Will now. Yep, so their Guy's Willing. They do have the Guy's Will line. This is very easy to get us dead. Okay, I think I would like some Show and Tells, but I don't want the Witherbloom. I still think that's too slow. I could be wrong here, but I think it is too slow. And we'll board out the Animate Deads. Borborygmos. We can make a turn 1 Borborygmos. And Cabal Therapy our opponent. Is that good enough? I don't know if it is. Like, we take 1 card out of our opponent's hand if we're lucky with our Cabal Therapy. And then we hit for 7, maybe do a little bit more damage the next turn. So this is quite a slow clock. I think we can do better. We don't have a payoff here, so this is a mulligan. Okay, this is fine. This is Thoughtseize into Entomb Reanimate. So we get rid of 1 land. We could get rid of either the Entomb or the second land. If we get Thoughtseized back, the second Entomb is kind of useful, but then they can always just hit our Reanimate. I think we're just going to guarantee ourselves the ability to go off on turn 2. So let's get Thoughtseize in before our opponent has any recourse to do anything at all. And hopefully, this does enough to buy us the time we need. Lion's Eye Diamond, Chrome Mox, Infernal Tutor. So they have 2 wish effects. I think we have to hit the Lion's Eye Diamond here, right? So they have 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana here. That's not enough to do anything with these. So I think it is the Petal that goes. Sorry, the Lion's Eye Diamond that goes. And then hopefully we can shred their hand next turn. I wonder if they've got some sort of sorcery they can get with this Burning Wish right now that messes with us. Probably not, would be my guess. Another Entomb. Right, let's Entomb. So if we get Griselbrand here, that's going to put us down to... If we take 8, we're going to go to 9. And then we draw. And we won't be able to Thoughtseize if we draw a Thoughtseize. Or we can dig 10 looking for Unmask. I think it's still Griselbrand, but I think that's a more interesting discussion there. We did hit an Unmask here. I will Unmask you pitching one of our many dark rituals. If we take the... So they don't have any red mana at the moment, so I think we should just take the Infernal Tutor. And then next turn we can connect and then fire in with Thoughtseize and Cabal Therapy. So we need our opponent to not kill us this turn, and that seems very difficult from where they are now. I don't even think a Lion's Eye Diamond gets them where they get there. So they have to burn their Lotus Petal if they want to cast a Burning Wish. I think that's reasonable because they can't set up a 2-turn line very effectively. They're not going to be able to do it anyway in the face of what we're doing. I think we have this. They might have something like Void Snare, but we can just Shallow Grave in something anyway next turn. If that's what they... So they could go potentially Chrome Mox and print something, and then, okay, they're duressing us. That's fine. That means we get to hit them with the Griselbrand. What do you take here? This hand is pretty stacked, and we're about to draw 7 more cards. Or 8, including our draw for turn. Shallow Grave is gone. Sure. And there is the Vault. So we're seeing the Chrome Mox here. Are they going to imprint this Burning Wish, or are they going to hold it? They are imprinting it, because they know that we're just going to strip their hand. Makes sense. Let's see if we can draw a Shallow Grave right now. We didn't draw a Shallow Grave right now. That's okay. Let's attack. We gain some life here. 1, 2, 3. So we don't want them to just kill us with a Tendrils of Agony off the top. Or a Beseech the Mirror into Beseech the Mirror. So Beseech into Beseech into Beseech. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8. They can do. So they can do us 8 damage next turn if they draw a Tendrils off the top. Oh, sorry, if they draw a Beseech off the top. So I think we pass, and then next turn we try and combo them out by getting a Shallow Grave or something going. Right, let's go and get a little Surveil action. Cabal Therapy, we don't need that for now. We're going to go to 1, but our opponent can't deal us 1 damage here. Okay, so we can go Dark Ritual, Cabal Therapy, our opponent. Have that just a Cabal Ritual, okay. And then we can Entomb. We put an Archon of Cruelty. We can Shallow Grave it. And this is many, many damages. Alright, we managed to get through it. And we're 2-0. Deck is obviously very powerful. Let's go to round number 3. Our opening hand for this round doesn't do anything. I think just taking cards out of our opponent's hand isn't a good enough strategy. We need to actually progress our own game plan. Yeah. This certainly does the thing, doesn't it? We'll put back the Surveil land. So we Dark Ritual, Entomb, get the Griselbrand, smash with the Griselbrand, hopefully get enough stuff to kill our opponent on turn 1. Entomb is a pretty messed up Magic the Gathering card. Please don't be playing blue, I guess. Uh-oh, it's a blue land. And a Ponder. So this could be Jeskai, or it could be the straight up blue-red Delver. Wouldn't mind a Thoughtseize here, deck. Not a Thoughtseize. Okay. Let's cast... We cast the Ritual and they interfere with the Ritual. Then our spell can resolve at a later date. Entomb. Do you have a response to this opponent? Doesn't look like they did. Right, Shallow Grave. I think you counter the Entomb if you have a counter spell there. Alright, we're in. Let's draw a million billion cards. Alright, let's have a look at their hand here. Alright, they're conceding. So what we would do this turn is we would be able to Dark Ritual out, Cabal Therapy our Archon of Cruelties, and then we'd have 3 mana left, so we could bring one of them back. So that's 7 plus 6, which is 13, plus another 6, which is 19. So you have exactly lethal. Not bad for a turn 1. I think we're going to do the full Duke here. So out with all of the reanimation spells and the Entombs and the Borborygmos and 2 reanimates. That seems like a reasonable thing to be doing. We certainly pick apart our opponent's hand, but what are we doing after that? We're just trying to draw into something. I don't think we can keep this. Alright, this works after a fashion, doesn't it? We'll need to find green mana if we want to go that route. Yep, this seems fine. What are we putting back? I kind of want to put the spoils back so that we can just show and tell in a Griselbrand after we Thoughtseize our opponent. We can also Chain of Smog our opponent, and how likely are they to send it back at us? Because if we like trade back and forth with discards, then that's not necessarily going to go well. Alright, so we're looking at Delver matchup. So Daze is something we have to consider. An Unmask. Alright, Thoughtseize. Let's see what our opponent has over there. Okay, they're on the Questing Druid build. Lightning Bolt, Brainstorm, Ponder. Yeah, these are good cards, aren't they? I think I want to take the Brainstorm here. So this Undercity Sewers in the face of their wasteland looks horrible. So we can save this Chain of Smog to pitch to our Unmask on the turn we want to go with our show and tell. Just to make sure that we can resolve it. I don't think our opponent beats a resolved Griselbrand very easily. So we're just looking for mana at this point. And hopefully we can stay alive long enough. Alright, there is a Ponder. This is going to be Sorcery, Artifact, Instant, Lands. We're going to get clocked for 3 this turn. Now we can force our opponent to use this Wasteland on our Undercity Sewers. We still get the Surveil off of it, and it means our opponent isn't using their mana to deploy scarier things. It's horrible, but I don't think we have a better choice once they've played out the Wasteland there. I'll leave this Bayou on top. We just need mana sources. I think our opponent probably gets us in this one. Alright, Thundering Falls. So now that we know they're Delver as well, that means they probably have less graveyard hate. They're probably just going to be running things like 1 Grafdigger's Cage and 1 Surgical Extraction. That sort of level of things going on. Do I want to Chain of Smog my opponent? If they Chain of Smog me back, how bad is that for us? Well, I think we go for the chain here. I don't believe our opponent is going to send this back at us. So they kept in Lightning Bolts because they're expecting the Witherbloom Duke. It's a pretty common thing for reanimated decks these days. Alright, they're dazing it. So we use this as kind of like a duress. If we draw a blue source, we can try and put Atraxa into play with a Unmask first. So we are a blue source away from greatness. But without that blue source, we are doing nothing. Although I guess we could cast a Reanimate, but Reanimate is now... So we take 3, we go to 9, and that puts Reanimate off the table. Maybe Reanimate isn't the one we're supposed to keep in this matchup. Maybe we're supposed to keep in the Animate Dead, because it doesn't cost us life, and their opponent doesn't really interact with enchantments. Okay, we're going to 9. Opponent's got a few cards in hand over there. Blue source. It is a blue source. I would like to unmask my opponent, and I'm going to pitch this Griselbrand. Even if they counter this, we're still going for it here. But we know 2 of the cards in their hand too. If it's Daze, then we know that Force of Will's not live, but they could have a second Daze. If it's Force of Will, then we know that we're fine here. Surgical Extraction on the Chain of Smog. You got it. They're going to see our hand and know what's coming. So the only thing they can have to interact with at this point is Daze. They can pop the Questing Druid to get 2 more cards that we can't touch. So they should probably do that. Alright, Seeking of the Beast. Okay, Sylvan Library. I haven't seen one of those for a while. They're dazing this. We know the last card in their hand is a Lightning Bolt. Unless I've somehow lost track of things. But they may as well do this because they get to Surveil. And we might make a mistake by paying for it. So let's cast Show and Tell. Sure, the Lightning Bolt me to 5. Price of Progress doesn't kill me. Okay, I'll take an artifact. I will take a creature. Will probably be Archon, I guess. We'll take a land and Unmask. Unmask is probably Cabal Therapy. It's a cheap way of getting a guy in the graveyard, I think. Okay. I'm not sure how our opponent's deck is going to handle this, especially when they have to attack with this Dragon's Rage Channel and just give us a buffer of 7 life. Now, if they have Brazen Borrower right now, then that can be pretty good. They bounce us out, they hit us down, and then we're probably dead. So they do have an out here, but they do need to hit the Brazen Borrower right now. They put a card on top of their library. That's a little bit concerning. So the second Ponder found something they wanted here. So maybe they do have the Borrower. They should have stacked it in a way that we can't really do anything about. Alright, we'll go and get some life here. If our opponent's made a mistake, we get to take the Borrower out of their hand right now. I believe our opponent has Brazen Borrower as the top card of their library here. It's a Brainstorm. Okay, I will play out this land because it can get us a Surveil land. And I will pass. I'm not going to sacrifice my Atraxa to get a Brainstorm out of their hand. So maybe they didn't find the Borrower. They found like just a cantrip. And they figured that's better for the next turn if they couldn't borrow that turn. They did have the Borrower. Okay. So now we're in this weird little holding pattern again. What's more important to me, blue or green mana? Oh, we've already used our blue Surveil land, so easy choice. Reanimate. This is something we're going to require at some point. What do we have in our graveyard right now? We have sorcery and land. No instant. Do they have anything worth reanimating over there? And the Dragon's Rage Channel doesn't really cut it. How much mana do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we put this into the graveyard looking for a Dark Ritual. That's actually pretty good. Not a Dark Ritual. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're really close to just hard cast in an Archon of Cruelty. There is the Brainstorm we knew about. We're seeing a Murktide Regent. This doesn't give us the most amount of time to find what we want. There it is. Okay, this is the reason why I don't think the Reanimate is a great strategy here. Alright, Lotus Petal or Dark Ritual, please. Cabal Therapy. That allows us to put something in the graveyard. That's not really what we need right now. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we need a mana source. Do we know what card is in our opponent's hand? We don't, do we? We're going to do this and we're going to name... I think this is actually a mistake doing this now. I'm thinking about it. Right, we're getting Lightning Bolt to the face. Yeah, I was thinking we could use this to make sure that we could resolve our Archon of Cruelty next turn, but what if we draw a Shallow Grave next turn? We're going to feel really bad for doing that. So I think that was just an objective error. I'm not used to playing these decks so much. I want to draw mana, so we're not going to take a land out of our deck with this Bloodstained Mire. Opponent has 1 card in hand. They have no cards in hand. Alright, deck. A Dark Ritual. That does work here, doesn't it? So, green, black, blue, white. I think we have to play the Atraxa here. So we cast this. So this is white mana. This is blue mana. This is green mana. Because if we play the Archon of Cruelty, it then has to chump block because they can just play the Borrower. How much mana do I have? Enough. So we can show and tell in a Griselbrand or an Archon of Cruelty here. Probably the Archon of Cruelty, actually. So we get show and tell, Archon of Cruelty, Dark Ritual, Lotus Petal, Polluted Delta. And play this land out. We don't have a second... No, this is our blue source, isn't it? Yeah, I was going to... Nearly messed it up there. So we crack this for whatever. One was fine. Cast a show and tell. We don't want to use our Dark Ritual because we can use that next turn and hard cast another Archon of Cruelty. We know our opponent has no cards in hand. You can play your Brazen Borrower. This means that they sacrifice the Borrower instead of the Archon, but we can trade the Atraxa for the Murkside region and just be left with an Archon that we can also then hardcast the following turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we have plenty of mana here. Alright, I think we've managed to get over there. We had a nice little Reanimate line that then got bested after we stabilised with it, and then we just got to hardcast our fatties again. And that's another nice little 2-0 for us. So we're going very well today. Let's go to round 4. This hand doesn't go anywhere for round 4, so let's send it back. Thoughtseize into Entomb Reanimate are options we have available. I will keep this, and I will bin off this Borborygmos, I think. It doesn't pitch to any of our pitch spells like Unmask or anything. I say any of our pitch spells, that's our only one, because we're not allowed to play Grief anymore, for good reason. Alright, our opponent's got a Cloud Post. This is going to be quite a slow deck on the other side of the board here. So we get a Swamp here. We Thoughtseize our opponent, and then next turn, if we draw a land, we just get to go in theory. Stock up the One Ring, Eye of Ugin. I don't really want them casting Chalice of the Void here. That's not my friend. So this is the blue build. So they could stock up into Force of Will blue card, but I think we are just in this position where we probably just have to send it if that's the case. This is if our opponent doesn't get the goods right now. Okay, another Entomb. I don't want our opponent to necessarily know what we're all about just yet. I want them to stock up not knowing what we're doing. Oh, they didn't hit a stock up. Interesting. Let's see if we can Entomb. That just went through, did it? Since we have a Reanimate, I think we're supposed to get the Atraxa here. 2 stock ups and a One Ring. Let me take the One Ring here. And then I will reanimate my little Atraxa, who's not really that little. Okay, so I would like to have access to this artifact, this land, this instant, this creature, and then do you want a Thoughtseize or an Unmask? Or a Cabal Therapy? We can take both their stock-ups if we take the Cabal Therapy here. So we point this at them, they lose some cards, they're just left with a bunch of colourless stuff they can't cast. I'll play this out, I guess. And then we can carry on. Our opponent is in a pretty bad spot. They could cast a Karn. Okay, so it looks like they're casting a Karn. What does it find them? Because we have a Cabal Therapy in our graveyard if it's anything really good. They could get a... Okay, they're going in Snaring Bridge over there. Sure. A Shallow Grave. Okay, so we cast a Dark Ritual here. Cast an Entomb. What would I like here? If we get an Archon, I think we just want... Oh wait, we don't have an Archon to grab, do we? It's Griselbrand or Borborygmos, I guess. It's probably Griselbrand, isn't it? And then we cast Shallow Grave. And then we draw 7 cards. We play another land. Alright, our opponent's just scooping because we're going to hit them for a bunch. They're going to lose everything going on there. Okay, what does Cloud Post deck have for anti-graveyard hate? I don't know. I think it's just like counter spells and a Tormod's Crypt. So, do we just run it back? I don't know if I want to be playing Show and Tells when our opponent can just drop an Emrakul in our lap sometimes. That doesn't feel like a great place to be. They don't get Planeswalkers. They do have an Emrakul in their deck. Do we have the ability to put just these cards in? 11 cards, that's quite a lot. I think we're just going to resubmit. If we see something like more Graveyard Hate, we can certainly change things in game 3. I think in a Cloud Post matchup, they're going to be relying on counter magic, so just lots of hand disruption and a quick clock feels like a good place to be. This is a lot of hand disruption. If we draw a big monster or an Entomb, how many outs is that? 13. I don't think that's enough outs for us to keep that one. Yeah, I'll keep a turn 1 here. So, I guess we put this back. So we get to unmask our opponent, then we can Entomb, and then have the Animate Dead on the following turn. Is this Chalice for 1? Yeah, that's pretty good, isn't it? That maybe changes how we have to use these cards. I will unmask myself. The Entomb, that doesn't work anymore. And we'll Animate Dead this. Do they have a Chalice plus Force of Will blue card draw? It's certainly possible, and there it is. Okay. But our Shallow Graves are online now. We could have waited and then tried to unmask our opponent, but if they go Chalice for 2, then we're in trouble. And if they start doing One Ring stuff, that's going to get a bit out of hand quite quickly. If we go to game 3, we get to be on the play, which is handy. Okay, so Lotus Petal is shut off. Underground Sea. Sure. So we're looking for Shadowgrave or Animate Dead here. Maybe the Chalice is a reason we're supposed to board into the Witherbloom. We don't really get Spoils of the Vault as a useful card, though. Because if we're worried about Chalice, then the Chalice clips that anyway. But that is still a combo that we can draw into. These 2-drops instead of 1-drops. But we're pretty resilient to Chalice, actually, because we have a bunch of 2-mana reanimation effects. A Lotus Petal we can't cast. Well, we can cast it, but it will get countered. There's this tower. I've not seen this art for Urza's Tower before. Okay, it's our turn. What do we draw? It's a land. So we're getting close to hard casting an Unmask. But it's not going to matter because our opponent's just going to have all the cards. This is probably going to be an end of turn Kozilek's Command. If our opponent gets low enough, his Shadowgrave does just 1-tap them. So this is going to put them pretty low. They're doing this in response. Okay. So they're binding their own trigger. That's something they could have used to bind the trigger of an Atraxa. Khan the Great Creator. So this One Ring doesn't ever hurt them again, but doesn't have any abilities. As long as this Tidebinder is in play. They're going to get a Tormod's Crypt here. No, a Disruptor Flute. That's interesting. What do you name here? Shadowgrave? Show and Tell. Okay, our opponent might have something to cover our spells because they've got a million cards in hand. And then next turn they just Lattice Lock us. So I will take one draw step and see if we can put a Shadowgrave in. It's the thing we have. Do we win the game? Or do you have a counterspell? With your a million cards. They should just counterspell this and it's game over. Yep. Because there's no way our opponent doesn't just Lattice Lock us next turn and then it's lights out. Okay. Do I want this other plan or do I just think being on the play is going to be good enough here? Like we still had like our 2-drop reanimation spells that were still live, so I think we just go in again, to be honest. We can make a turn 1 Archon of Cruelty. But if our opponent has a counterspell, we don't go anywhere. I think we need something a little bit more interactive. This just leaves us trying to draw our reanimation payoffs, which is what, 4, 8, 12 cards? Is this good enough? Now we get to unmask our opponent turn 1, so we don't have to worry about Chalice necessarily. We do have Surveil ability if we want it. Okay, we'll try this. It's a little bit slower than I would ideally like. Okay, Force of Negation, Force of Will, Tishana's Tidebinder. Okay, so if we take the Force of Will, we can entomb on our opponent's turn. Then we're going to have to get through the other bits in a bit, so that's still fine. So play this out, and then in our opponent's upkeep, I guess, we entomb. I think it's Griselbrand. So playing a Nexus. So they're going to have 4 mana next turn and the One Ring running, which is a little bit spooky. A Cabal Therapy. That doesn't hurt, does it? Let's... Underground Mortuary, see what we're drawing. An Unmask. I don't really want the Unmask right now. So now we have a decision to make. Are we taking out this Force of Negation to try and pay the way for what we're doing? Or do we take out this One Ring so they don't have lots and lots of cards? Because how are we beating lots and lots of cards? Alright, let's see if they counterspell our Cabal Therapy first. Because we might not have a choice. They might just Force of Negation, pitching the Tidebinder and keeping the One Ring. That's exactly what they've done. Okay, the illusion of choice. So we need to draw a... Like, we probably just win if we draw the Shadowgrave. Now, our opponent's stock up could find them answers to what we're doing. But it needs to find them Force of Will and blue card. And their blue card count isn't great. They're running Tishana's Tidebinder just to help with their blue card count for the most part. Alright, no Lotus Petals for us. You got it, boss. Not a Shadowgrave, but we do have a Surveil land, which is not nothing. But if our opponent played this because they're planning on playing a 2-mana, a Chalice that stops 2-drops next turn, then sure, they gas. I would have thought this would have been a pretty good matchup for us, so it's kind of interesting that we're having troubles. Alright, stock up. So we know they've got a Cloud Post in hand as well they haven't played yet. There's another tower. Alright, we've got 2 looks here for this turn. Hook me up, deck. I believe in you. Not a Lotus Petal. A Dark Ritual. Well, the hardcasting guy's plan might be online soon. So we've got 6 mana, so we're 2 away from hard casting Archon of Cruelty or a Griselbrand. The One Ring. This is where the tide begins to turn. Alright, deck. Shallow Grave. So now we have a choice. Are we just going to Shallow Grave and get a bunch of cards before our opponent gets to untap with this? Or do we just try and ride the lightning and leave them another turn? Maybe we draw a piece of hand disruption as well. I think we wait a turn. Is that true? That goes really badly if our opponent has Khan next turn, because they just go and get the Tormod's Crypt. I guess we just draw 14 cards, right? I think that's actually correct here. We can't deal them damage, which is why it doesn't matter when we cast this in our turn. We're trying to get things done before our opponent draws counterspells here. If we draw 14 cards, we should be able to get through. Kozilek's Command, X equals 1. Cool. That's a nice, well-designed magic card, isn't it? Okay, we are in trouble. We took 1 turn too many. But this is a spawn token. They had to target us because they can't target themselves when they have the One Ring protection. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1 mana away from hard casting one of our big creatures. So the game is not over yet. But this card certainly makes it feel like it's over. Okay, Khan the Great Creator is a bit of a disaster. I think we're about to fall apart in this league that's been going so well up to now. A Disruptor Flute. They're going to name Show and Tell. Okay, this shuts off our Dark Ritual, so we're now further away from casting our big boy. This is, what, going to name Show and Tell, I guess? Sure. An Entomb. Can't cast that. We can attack Khan with our Eldrazi Spawn to send a message. It'd be funny if we Ninjutsu the Kaito in, but no. Okay, so our opponent just Lattice locks us this turn and it's the end of the game. They don't need to do this, they can just minus this, get the Mycosynth Lattice. Play the Lattice, we don't get to cast any spells anymore. There it is. Okay, we've finally taken a loss. It did take 4 rounds, and I think this matchup is probably fine for us a lot of the time. It certainly seems within the bounds of being winnable, but I guess like sometimes you're going to get blown out by the Kozilek's Command like we did. Sometimes they're going to have Chalice. So maybe it is worse than I'm thinking. And like Khan can mess us up a bit too. And they do have counter spells. I don't know, maybe it is harder than I'm thinking. I don't know if we're supposed to juke on this one. At least having a 2-power creature to pressure card is interesting, maybe. I'm not sure. I'm sure one of you lovely experts with Reanimator will tell me what the actual play is there. Okay, so 4 rounds down. The positive record is locked in. Are we going to get a 4-1 or a 3-2? Let's find out in the final round. So we Cabal Therapy ourselves and then Reanimate on turn 2. That's probably fine. I guess we keep this one. This also gives us the ability to potentially draw some hand disruption. Our opponent's mulligan to 5 cards. Do we need to be aggressively poking a hole in their hand? Later on the play, maybe we just get a brand new hand from like a Echo of Eons or something. Urza's Mine. Candelabra of Tornos. We're back into the old Cloudpost life, are we? I suppose we go and fetch a swamp here. Just in case. Sometimes they might have like 1 wasteland to tutor for and we don't want to get caught out by it. So now we go... Urza's Mine. That's such a weird one. Alright, let's Cabal Therapy our opponent here. I think I'm going to name Kozilek's Command. Trinisphere. Trinisphere sucks for us, doesn't it? Okay. Was not expecting to see a Trinisphere. But here we are. Our opponent is doing something a little bit different to what I first anticipated. So we're more like a Mystic 4G type thing. So they're going to untap this. They're going to play the Trinisphere here. Now, thankfully, we have enough lands that we can eventually get through this. Oh, they had the One Ring. Oh. Okay. That is a different proposition for us, isn't it? So we Entomb here. We go and get probably Griselbrand. Well, how many cards do we get out of Griselbrand? We only get 7. Maybe it should be the Atraxa this time. Let's get Atraxa. Let's have a look at what our deck has to offer us. How many creatures do we have? 2 to choose from. I guess we choose from an Archon of Cruelty. That just gives us options with our discard. We've got an enchantment here. We've got a land. We've got an artifact. We've got an instant. We've got a sorcery. That's a lot of cards. So we can play this one out. We can't do anything to our opponent right now, which is kind of awkward. We can play this out to get ahead of the Trinisphere we know is coming. I'm going to clean up. If we get rid of the Archon of Cruelty, we can Shallow Grave this in, and then it can blow up their Planeswalker. That seems like a good plan. And then, what else do we want to get rid of? It's just a Griselbrand. And so put this into graveyard, and then put the Archon on top. There we go. The order does matter because of Shallow Grave. This is the top card of our graveyard. So this is 9 plus 6, which is 15 plus 7, which is enough to kill our opponent. Yep. They have a lot of mana. They have Tezzeret, which is basically free off of the Grim Monolith. Or they can use it to draw more cards with the One Ring. Right, they're untapping their Urza lands. So playing against proper Urzatron with actual mines and power plants. So there is the Tezzeret. They're untapping the One Ring, so they don't have the answer in hand. That's what that tells me. Trinisphere is fine. This means that our opponent doesn't have any more plays because they won't be able to play through Trinisphere because this only makes 2 mana. So they should be dead this turn. Let's go and get ourselves a little swamp action. Cast a Shallow Grave. So they're going to lose a Planeswalker and a card from their hand and 3 life. And we go to attacks. And they're going to lose the rest of their life. Boom. Exactsies. Very nice. Okay, to the sideboard. I don't know what our opponent's doing here exactly. So maybe we're just going to go for this Duke. So it's these come out, this comes out, Entombs come out, a couple of Reanimates come out. That's what we've been doing up until now. Let's try this. So Show and Tell might be a bit of a double-edged sword. We don't know what they're doing like Eldrazi-wise. I don't like this one very much. I think we do better. Ooh, this has some problems, doesn't it? Let's mulligan to 5. Deck, hello? Hello? We have the combo, we just need mana. Do we keep this? Like, I guess. So we're not going to have the resources to use Unmasks here. We might not have the resources to use Thoughtseize. Alright, Leyline in the Void. I correctly duked around that at least. Grim Monolith, at least that's not a Chalice of the Void. If they play a Trinisphere right now, we're in trouble. Okay, so they have Tezzeret, which then untaps the Grim Monolith, which then maybe plays a Trinisphere. Are we going to the dirt? This is fine. For now. Okay. Come on, lands. Just need lands. I wish we'd have kept the Unmask instead of these two now. But there we are. Alright, they got 3 mana plus 3 from the Grim Monolith using the Tezzeret. So that's 6 mana. So they could play the One Ring, they could play like Coveted Jewel if that's something they're running. There's a lot of things they could do here. I'm kind of reluctant to play out the Wither. So we could have played out the Witherbloom last turn, then that way if we hit a land, we can then just go. But I'm very reluctant to hang this out there when our opponent's probably running things like Kozilek's Command and stuff. Although they're always going to have a window for that, I think. This is the problem. Let's get our Underground Mortuary. That gets us some green mana. A Lotus Petal. That is a land, technically. I'll leave that on top. Do we play this out? I think so. Do we just play out this guy? Maybe that's correct. I've only got 2 cards in hand. It does feel like they're holding up for like a big Kozilek's Command, though. So I think we just let them do their big Kozilek's Command. Like, if we find a land, we get to win anyway. It's the Khan that I'm kind of most worried about. I'm assuming they have a Khan. Something big is happening. Here is the Khan. That is obviously devastating given the lands we have aren't lands. Alright, what are they going to tutor for? Nothing. They're just going to blow up our land that isn't a land. Alright, you're making this harder. I wish I'd have played this out now. We could at least pressure some stuff. So next turn, they should just lattice lock us. So we'll let them do that. We don't need to show them anything. So this is a minus. They go and get the Mike's Lattice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Plenty of mana. Okay, another match where we're getting beaten by a Khan. Interesting. All right, there is a Lattice. We get to be on the play now, which is obviously kind of a big deal. I think our hand is a lot less reliable when we're going for this sort of plan. But I think it is correct to go for this sort of plan. Now, do we want these Reanimates in? Or do we want some sort of Shallow Grave action in? If we're expecting... So the thing with Reanimate is it does allow us to reanimate a Witherbloom cheaply. I think it is still the Reanimate that stays in. So the reason for this, like we may want the Shallow Grave is so that we can you know, attack and pressure a Planeswalker. But I just don't think that's going to be what it's about. Okay, this has both of our backup plans. That's really nice. Okay. Okay, they kept 2 ley lines, so this is basically a blank against us right now. So we can go and get our Underground Mortuary, and that gives us a little surveil action. Maybe we can find our way to unmasking our opponent. That would be nice. I think we just play out the Witherbloom Apprentice. And then if they answer it, then we can show and tell. If they don't, then we can just try and win the game. Undercity Sewers, we don't need that. Cabal Therapy. It's certainly interesting. But we're just going to make our guy and see if our opponent wants to try and survive. Because we can Cabal Therapy next turn and then try and win. If they don't answer this. As a saga. Sure. Feels like we've got time here. Let's Cabal Therapy our opponent. What do we name here? Dismember, maybe? Nothing that does anything at all here. So we can just play a land and smog ourselves. And that is the end of the game. So if you're unfamiliar with how this combo works, we target ourselves with Smog, and after Smog resolves, it says you can copy this spell and choose a new target. But we're not going to choose a new target, we're just going to fire it ourselves over and over again. So, we finished with a pretty respectable 4-1 league. The deck felt pretty darn powerful. I think the one round we lost was also pretty close. If our hands were like fractionally better and our opponents were fractionally worse, then I think we just win that one. The fact that we got blown out by that Kozilek's Command was annoying. Maybe that matchup is worse than I'm thinking, because they do have counter spells, they do have Chalice, they do have Kozilek's Command to mess with our graveyard. So maybe we're supposed to pivot on that one. I'm not sure. Maybe one of you people can tell me. So yeah, this deck felt pretty good. The ceiling of this deck is obviously very strong. It can win turn 1 protected. Sometimes. Not that often there's going to be turn 1 protected wins, but it does stuff to just win the game outright very early on. It's obviously fast. It's quite disruptive because you've got Thoughtseizes, Unmasks, and the Cabal Therapies. So the fact that all these things can do double duty as being an enabler or being disruption is really nice, because it means that it feels like our deck has a lot of slots because we've got loads of hand disruption, but then we also have loads of enablers. So that feels pretty sweet. We did get to pivot into our Witherbloom Apprentice. I think we also did a show and tell win. We even hardcast our Archon of Cruelty. So yeah, we kind of did everything that we wanted there. I can't remember if we threw lands with Borborygmos. I think our opponent scooped before that was a thing, but we had that as a thing we were going to do, but our opponent just scooped. So deck is obviously very powerful. Now, it is more fragile than other decks because we don't have counter magic, and we are kind of relying on the graveyard zone quite a lot in game 1, and sometimes game 1 graveyard hate can just beat us. And there is a lot of game 1 graveyard hate about right now, so it's kind of a little spooky, but we are so fast that we can usually come in underneath it and then try and adjust things in the sideboard with a different powerful combo. I do like having the 4 show and tell and only 3 Spores of the Vault here. I've seen some builds that run like Leyline in the sideboard to try and beat other decks that are going fast. But I think it's best just to say, I'm going to be the problem in the world and you're going to have to deal with me, which is very much what this sideboard says. And I do like that a lot. It gives us a very powerful pivot if we need to ignore the graveyard. And as you saw, we drew both parts of our pivot in that last round and it looked pretty good. Our opponent basically mulliganed to 5 by having those 2 ley lines that did nothing. So yeah, a pretty powerful deck. Very much living and dying by the sword when you play it, but some people really enjoy that play pattern, and we had a pretty respectable run of it today, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to like and subscribe, and if you want to support the channel, you can become a member for just $1 a month, and then you can see all my videos early. It's just a tiny little bit of money for me, and then you get some extra, well, not extra content, but you get some early content. So please consider doing that if you are able. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.